Chapter 29 of Plain Tales from the Hills. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Mike Harris. Plain Tales from the Hills by Rudyard Kipling. Chapter 29. The Bisara of Puri. Little blind fish, thou art marvellous wise. Little blind fish, who put out thy eyes? Open thine ears while I whisper my wish. Bring me a lover, thou little blind fish. The charm of the Bisara. Some natives say that it came from the other side of Kulu, where the 11-inch temple sapphire is. Others that it was made at the devil shrine of Ao Chong in Tibet, was stolen by a Kafir, from him by a Gurkha, from him again by a Lahuli, from him by a Khitmagar, and by this latter sold to an Englishman, so all its virtue was lost, because to work properly the Bisara of Puri must be stolen, with bloodshed if possible, but at any rate stolen. These stories of the coming into India are all false. It was made at Puri ages since. The manner of its making would fill a small book. Was stolen by one of the temple dancing girls there for her own purposes, and then passed on from hand to hand steadily northward till it reached Hanla, always bearing the same name, the Bisara of Puri. In shape it is a tiny, square box of silver, studded outside with 8 small balas rubies. Inside the box, which opens with a spring, is a little eyeless fish, carved from some sort of dark, shiny nut, and wrapped in a shred of faded gold cloth. That is the Bisara of Puri, and it were better for a man to take a king cobra in his hand than to touch the Bisara of Puri. All kinds of magic are out of date and done away with, except in India, where nothing changes in spite of the shiny, toy-scum stuff that people call civilization. Any man who knows about the Bisara of Puri will tell you what its powers are, always supposing that it has been honestly stolen. It is the only regularly working, trustworthy love charm in the country, with one exception. The other charm is in the hands of a trooper of the Nizam's horse at a place called Tuprani, due north of Hyderabad. This can be depended upon for a fact. Someone else may explain it. If the Bisara be not stolen, but given or bought or found, it turns against its owner in 3 years, and leads to ruin or death. This is another fact which you may explain when you have time. Meanwhile you can laugh at it. At present the Bisara is safe on an Eka pony's neck, inside the blue bead necklace that keeps off the evil eye. If the Eka driver ever finds it and wears it or gives it to his wife, I am sorry for him. A very dirty hill coolie woman with goiter owned it at Theong in 1884. It came into Simla from the north before Churton's Khitmagar bought it and sold it for 3 times its silver value to Churton, who collected curiosities. The servant knew no more what he had bought than the master, but a man looking over Churton's collection of curiosities — Churton was an assistant commissioner, by the way — saw, and held his tongue. He was an Englishman, but knew how to believe, which shows that he was different from most Englishmen. He knew that it was dangerous to have any share in the little box when working or dormant, for unsought love is a terrible gift. Pack, Grubby Pack as we used to call him, was in every way a nasty little man, who must have crawled into the army by mistake. He was 3 inches taller than his sword, but not half so strong, and the sword was a 50-shilling tailor-made one. Nobody liked him, and I suppose it was his wizenedness and worthlessness that made him fall so helplessly in love with Miss Hollis, who was good and sweet and 5 feet 7 in her tennis shoes. He was not content with falling in love quietly, but brought all the strength of his miserable little nature into the business. If he had not been so objectionable, one might have pitied him. He vapoured and fretted and fumed and trotted up and down, and tried to make himself pleasing in Miss Hollis's big, quiet grey eyes, and failed. It was one of the cases that you sometimes meet, even in this country where we marry by code, of a really blind attachment all on one side, without the faintest possibility of return. Miss Hollis looked on Pack as some sort of vermin running about the road. He had no prospects beyond captain's pay, and no wits to help that out by 1 anna. In a large-sized man, love like this would have been touching. In a good man, it would have been grand. He being what he was, it was only a nuisance. You will believe this much. What you will not believe is what follows. Churton, and the man who knew that the Bisro was, were lunching at the Simla Club together. Churton was complaining of life in general. His best mare had rolled out of stable down the hill and had broken her back. His decisions were being reversed by the upper courts more than an assistant commissioner of 8 years' standing has a right to expect. He knew liver and fever, and for weeks past had felt out of sorts. Altogether, he was disgusted and disheartened. Simla Club dining room is built, as all the world knows, in 2 sections, with an arch arrangement dividing them. Come in, turn to your own left, take the table under the window, and you cannot see anyone who has come in, turning to the right and taken a table on the right side of the arch. Curiously enough, every word that you say can be heard, not only by the other diner, but by the servants beyond the screen through which they bring dinner. This is worth knowing. An echoing room is a trap to be forewarned against. Half in fun and half hoping to be believed, the man who knew told Churton the story of the Basara of Puri, at rather greater length than I have told it to you in this place, winding up with the suggestion that Churton might as well throw the little box down the hill and see whether all his troubles would go with it. In ordinary ears, English ears, the tale was only an interesting bit of folklore. Churton laughed, said that he felt better for his tiffin, and went out. Pack had been tiffining by himself to the right of the arch, and had heard everything. He was nearly mad with his absurd infatuation for Miss Hollis that all Simla had been laughing about. It's a curious thing that when a man hates or loves beyond reason, he is ready to go beyond reason to gratify his feelings, which he would not do for money or power merely. Depend upon it, Solomon would never have built altars to Ashtaroth and all those ladies with queer names if there had not been trouble of some kind in his zenana and nowhere else. But this is beside the story. The facts of the case are these. Pack called on Churton next day when Churton was out, left his card, and stole the Basara of Puri from its place under the clock on the mantelpiece. Stole it, like the thief he was by nature. 3 days later, all Simla was electrified by the news that Miss Hollis had accepted Pack. The shrivelled rat, Pack. Do you desire clearer evidence than this? The Basara of Puri had been stolen, and it worked as it had always done when won by foul means. There are 3 or 4 times in a man's life when he is justified in meddling with other people's affairs to play Providence. The man who knew felt that he was justified, but believing and acting on a belief are quite different things. The insolent satisfaction of Pack as he ambled by the side of Miss Hollis, and Churton's striking release from liver as soon as the Basara of Puri had gone, decided the man. He explained to Churton, and Churton laughed, because he was not brought up to believe that men on the Government House list steal, at least little things. But the miraculous acceptance by Miss Hollis of that tailor Pack decided him to take steps on suspicion. He vowed that he only wanted to find out where his ruby-studded silver box had vanished to. You cannot accuse a man on the Government House list of stealing, and if you rifle his room, you are a thief yourself. Churton, prompted by the man who knew, decided on burglary. If he found nothing in Pack's room, but it is not nice to think of what would have happened in that case. Pack went to a dance at Benmore. Benmore was Benmore in those days, and not an office, and danced 15 waltzes out of 22 with Miss Hollis. Churton and the man took all the keys that they could lay hands on, and went to Pack's room in the hotel, certain that his servants would be away. Pack was a cheap soul. He had not purchased a decent cash box to keep his papers in, but one of those native imitations that you can buy for 10 rupees. It opened to any sort of key, and there, at the bottom, under Pack's insurance policy, lay the Basara of Puri. Churton called Pack names, put the Basara of Puri in his pocket, and went to the dance with the man. At least he came in time for supper, and saw the beginning of the end in Miss Hollis's eyes. She was hysterical after supper, and was taken away by her mamma. At the dance, with the abominable Basara in his pocket, Churton twisted his foot on one of the steps leading down to the old rink, and had to be sent home in a rickshaw, grumbling. He did not believe in the Basara of Puri any more for this manifestation, but he sought out Pack, and called him some ugly names, and thief was the mildest of them. Pack took the names with the nervous smile of a little man who wants both soul and body to resent an insult, and went his way. there was no public scandal. A week later, Pack got his definite dismissal from Miss Hollis. There had been a mistake in the placing of her affections, she said, so he went away to Madras, where he can do no great harm, even if he lives to be a colonel. Churton insisted upon the Man Who Knew taking the Basara of Puri as a gift. The man took it, went down to the cart road at once, found an ekka pony with a blue head necklace, fastened the Basara of Puri inside the necklace with a piece of shoestring, and thanked Heaven that he was rid of a danger. Remember, in case you ever find it, that you must not destroy the Basara of Puri. I have not time to explain why just now, but the power lies in the little wooden fish. Mr. Gubernatis or Max Muller could tell you more about it than I. You'll say that all this story is made up. Very well. If ever you come across a little silver ruby-studded box, 7/8 of an inch long by 3/4 wide, with a dark brown wooden fish wrapped in gold cloth inside it, keep it. Keep it for 3 years, and then you will discover for yourself whether my story is true or false. Better still, steal it, as Pack did, and you will be sorry that you have not killed yourself in the beginning. End of Chapter 29. The Basara of Puri. Recording by Mike Harris.